ladies and gentlemen, we are here today with the Tripodcast, and we are talking once again about Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Now, I want to give a warning out there to everybody that this is going to have some spoilers of the film. We do have a longer podcast where me and Jason kind of talk about it in a non-spoiler format, so you can go check that out. And also, if you've seen it, though, you can go ahead and listen to what we have to say. Basically, Peter hadn't seen it yet, so we decided not to talk about any spoilers.
I started calling that series Talking at Tables About Movies.
Hey, we're not at a table, sadly.
Yeah.
And otherwise
table,
it would
right?
be true. Yeah, close enough. Talking at tables is about movies. So first of all, Peter, what were your thoughts on the film?
I can't remember the last film that I watched with like massive expectations that actually lived up to it. Like, I don't know what the marketing is over there, but the marketing over here is like insanely hype. Like, every ad is just like little spots that say like the greatest animated film of all time, a masterpiece, and it's like you don't often see films have like such high praise in their like advertisements.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, it's really hyping it up, but I mean, it lives up to the expectations actually.
Okay, yeah.
Which is rare, but
Yeah, it absolutely
it's
does.
definitely rare.
good.
Yeah, no, the advertisements out here were definitely super intense, and they did definitely hype it up. I tried to like stay away from some of like the reviews and whatnot, even though I knew that they were like insanely like positive. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I was like really hype about this, and then I like had high expectations because the first one I really enjoyed. So going in, I was very hopeful, and
I think the
it
last
turned out well
time
for me too.
that we had a movie that was like extremely hyped before we even watched it, we already knew that it was critically praised. Was Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yeah, that was the last one.
That was the
For
one
me,
that was
lived
like
up to
that
it.
exceeded even the most like 10 out of 10 like type of review. Like,
yeah, that one was like super hype, and I definitely lived up. And that was like, I don't know, a year ago now that we watched that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, 100%. And then of course there's the part where we said in the podcast that there's somebody that shows up, and you mentioned that it would be cool to see Childish Gambino in there.
Yeah, and we were like, no, I can't say anything.
Yeah, and we kept it on the low, 100%. And so
I'm surprised that hasn't been discussed yet. That feels like, I mean, I guess, is he like not popular now? Because it feels like he's like, for me, I was like, holy shit.
I think he's
They
like,
got
oh
a fucking
no,
cameo.
everybody in our theater
he's
freaked
Frank
out.
Ocean of actors.
Yeah, no, dude,
Oh,
everybody
good,
in our
good.
theater was like totally hyped about it. Like
Yep.
there was even people
Like,
that like
screaming
"Oh,
out, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And then like the thing that I loved about it is it felt so natural within the story.
Even he's
and,
like, he's still locked in his little cage, and he just kind of, I think he says like, "Go get him, guys!" Like all down.
yeah, so yeah, when they're like trying to like
Yeah.
break out, he's trying to break out or whatever. Miles is.
But
yeah.
yeah, I could definitely see him as an older Miles Morales.
I could see that, and it was again very natural, like through it, and so it was fan service, and it played in the theater like fan service. Everybody freaked out, but it didn't feel like Star Wars fan service, you know. Mm-hmm.
You know, I literally only just clocked that he could be an older Miles because
Yeah.
of the ending.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, no, that's why. As soon as I saw him, I was like, yeah, if you sit there and do the whole multiverse thing, and then you have him be the older Miles Morales who kind of takes a younger Miles Morales under his wing and kind of teaches him things, what's right, what's not right. You know, that's what I kind of immediately when I saw that. That's why
And he deserves a titular
and then,
role like
of
that.
course, Sony announces that they're gonna go ahead with their production of a live-action Miles Morales movie,
Which is based
So-
because
Yeah.
Disney would never.
but the writer's strike
Yeah,
is
the-
gonna hold things up.
Yeah.
The reason I was bringing that up is like, I feel like there were rumors of Gambino having a role, but like those rumors sort of died off, and then they announced Miles Morales live action. And I was like, I guess he's not doing anything because they haven't mentioned he's attached yet. So, and it hasn't leaked, so I guess he's not attached. And then he's in the film. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that is one thing that we didn't expect at all either, and I am surprised that people
I got
keep it
chills
under
man.
wraps.
As soon as I saw it,
I was like, oh my
chills.
god,
I'm
they're
like,
doing
no
it. They're
freaking
weaving
way.
him in. Because especially they usually they wasted him with Lando. Like
Well,
they
that's a
didn't
dream
provide
guy
him
to be
enough.
Miles Morales. When you think about
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
like prominent actor would you want to be older Miles Morales, it immediately
Who's
he
the
always
best?
came to mind.
Most artistic,
Yeah,
loves
he
his
makes
art.
the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and also he's good at like that like dark comedy
And
too,
you can
know
bring
what I mean?
a new actor to play younger Miles who's not prominent, who's almost like a
Yep.
Tom
Yeah,
Holland
that's true.
type guy.
Yep. A no name.
But
Yeah.
Exactly.
and you sell the movie based on, hey, this is possibly Donald Glover's only film as Miles
Yeah.
Morales. You
Well,
better go see
maybe,
it.
possibly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who knows? Or he dies and it's like
And then
really
yeah,
epic
exactly.
ending. It's like
That'd be lit.
I think
Yeah.
he works as either old Miles or Prowler. Either way.
Probably
Like,
would
I
work
thought,
too. Yeah.
yeah, when I saw it, I thought he was going to be live action Prowler, and I was like, I don't hate like redoing it, but with Donald Glover as Prowler, I could see that being a good twist because he's really good.
Yeah,
Like,
and his attire
I
looked
haven't
more
seen
Prowler.
Atlanta yet, but like he's fucking good in everything
yeah, I
I've seen.
keep meaning watching
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah, I know. Me too. It's like even like the advertisements for it on FX are burned into my.
I mean, the only thing I've seen him prominently in is I watched a lot of Community episodes. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and then obviously the music is
yeah,
Yeah, like it seems like in Atlanta he's gotten good at acting because then like, I mean, Solo wasn't great, but his performance in Solo was fantastic.
You know, that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
the problem was they didn't give him enough to work with, and they didn't give him enough screen
Yeah.
time, and that was the biggest issue.
if there was gonna be a guy who had that charm of Billy D. Williams,
yeah,
it was
come on.
him.
Yeah, it was.
Like, and yeah, he
Yeah.
did such a fantastic role. Except for I think he
They just
wanted to
didn't.
fuck the robot. So I don't know.
no, the robot wanted to fuck him.
Oh, okay.
That's what he's got. He's got charm and charisma, which is like
yeah.
really good. So
Absolutely.
they could put him. He could be anything in live action Miles, and I'd be down.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Now, what did you think of the various art styles that were prominent in the film? Did you were there any ones that stuck out or anything like that?
I mean, all of them were quite interesting. I like that they included like the Lego. I I don't. There wasn't a post credits, right? Because I left.
There was
Um,
not. No, this
no.
one didn't have a post
But
credits.
then I'm seeing on TikTok there's like I don't know if it's like a clip or something where there's like the animated Spider-Man and like 2099 goes into the animated Spider-Man. And people on TikTok are calling it a post credits and I'm like, I don't remember seeing
It
this.
might have been like a bonus clip, like a comedy
Yeah.
type clip or something.
But
but-
all of the
yeah.
like different animations they used was really good. I really liked that they actually like used all of the different animation mediums like
Mhm.
fully, as
Yeah.
opposed to just like, oh, this is like cool. We can do this different art style. It's like they actually, when they use it, there's actually like a reasoning.
Absolutely.
What would you
100%.
think of like when you saw Vulture come on the screen for the first time? He's kind of
Yeah,
like
with
all
the paper.
Oh yeah, he looks fantastic.
Yeah, and he was like from a
I mean,
weird
the whole
universe.
first,
Mhm.
the whole first like opening of the film before it like gets the title was really good.
Yeah, I was like, what the
Absolutely.
fuck are we in store for? As soon as that title screen came up, and I was like, that's the start.
And they did a very good job of like people. One of the complaints I've heard is that there isn't like some sort of climax. Like Moist Critical, for example, said that there wasn't like a big fight scene. But overall, the film has this thing where
For the
you
film,
you,
yeah.
you build up this tension where it shows like Gwen clearly isn't supposed to be there. She's there for something else, and it kind of slowly reveals that and what that is, and then it slowly reveals all this thing, and then at the end you have this giant fight scene because he realizes, hey, my dad's gonna die. I don't want to live like all these other ones that just accept my fate. I want to try to fight back. And then on top of that climax with like figuring that out, and then also having this giant like chase scene, then you also have the climax of him realizing he was the first anomaly. And so those two things have these really intense things that kind of built up across the film in a really good way and felt really satisfying. So I felt like even though it was a part one, to me it had a satisfying kind of climactic ending while still leaving the door open for part two to come in. And so I hope they don't ruin anything in part two. But
It's
kinda
interesting
generally
because I was getting the vibe. I thought it's one of those films. Not often am I like trying to think of what's actually happening, but I was, and I thought like, oh, he's from Universe 42, so like there's gonna be a twist where like this stuff isn't relevant because he's from Universe 42, and then they just went like above and beyond that. But the canon events that they're talking about, I guess this is theorycraft, wouldn't be relevant because he was never supposed to be
Yeah.
Miles.
No, this is actually
Um,
something that we talked about, and also the fact that he's an anomaly. Wouldn't he be like glitching in his own universe because he's an anomaly within his own universe? And like, why hasn't that caused much larger issues and like various other
Yeah.
things? But like, the thing is I like the way that it takes some really complex ideas and distills it down in a way that's accessible for like younger kids, but also allows the complexity to remain for like older people to be like, hey, I can like actually kind of dive into this part and like chew on like what this might mean philosophically, etc. Because like one thing that me and Jason talked about as well is really, in my view, Miles kind of is wrong here. He's in the right to fight back at the end of the day, and of course you should try to take destiny into your own hands and fight back to a certain degree. But if you know that something can cause like a complete ending of like not just a world but a universe, like with however many lives are in a fucking universe, that is something that's super intense. And on top of that, there are events in your life that if you don't go through them, while they may have been heavily traumatic, you wouldn't be the same person that you were today. And for some people, that is a bad thing. For some people, they end up in really horrible places, etc. But for somebody like Spider-Man, it is kind of true that these various things have effects. The one thing I would say is that like he did have his uncle kind of be his Uncle Ben, even though it wasn't quite as intense, I would say, as like the traditional Uncle Ben story. But to also lose not just your uncle, but like your dad there too. I understand that Spider-Man loses his dad earlier, but when you're at that age in life, especially you're like college age, that's like a really fucking hard time to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna let my dad die to a fucking supervillain. That is like my fault, kind of. And then on top of that, the way that he like pushes Spot to becoming like this ultra like evil thing and ultra powerful was also an interesting idea. That it's like, for kids obviously it's more easy of like, hey, if he just weren't a fucking asshole, it might not have been as bad as it needed to be.
Well,
Yeah,
they
well,
do a good
because-
job balancing. I was just gonna say real quick, they do a good job balancing like Spot's personality in terms of like you don't completely hate him because somehow he makes you laugh.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a way of humanizing.
Yeah,
him at
that's
the
true
same
to a
time.
certain degree, for sure.
And they do that very, very well in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. What were we gonna say, Peter?
Yeah, I think I was gonna say, I think the whole plot is like not like the 2099 guy and the AI talking about his
Miguel.
father
Miguel,
dying.
yeah.
Miguel. I don't think it's going to be a canon event because it doesn't. Like the whole thing is Miles is like Spot is going to kill him, but Spot only exists as an anomaly. And his
That
father.
didn't make sense to me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't because I don't think I'm trying to remember. But I don't think they said, oh, it's a canon event. They said there's canon events, and then they said your father dies in 2 days. I think they're just being.
They said
dickheads.
it was the canon
Um,
because it's canon that the captain has to die. Now the captain just so happens to end up being his dad, but like in the guy in the Indian universe,
But it's like his father, because they're saying he's not the Spider-Man of that universe, so his father wouldn't be a police chief that's connected to Spider-Man because he's not that universe's
well,
Spider-Man.
theoretically, he wouldn't have to. He's not supposed to be Spider-Man at all. So theoretically, none of it would apply to him. However, maybe there's the idea that like when he gets bit, he kind of starts to take the role of Spider-Man regardless. And in order to become the best Spider-Man that he could be, he has these events, and these events maybe even it isn't canon. Maybe this is. I mean, this is just a theory, right? Miguel maybe is trying to fix the anomaly by having him go through every canon
he had
event.
a family. He basically screwed everything up, and he decided, well, I want a family. And he went
And he
back,
tried to
and
do
he
it,
was
yeah.
selfish, and now they see the consequences, and he lost everything.
Uh-huh.
But the
yeah,
thing
maybe
that kind of throws the wrench into everything, I want to get your thoughts on is when you see like Ghost Spider, her dad just quits, and he stops being captain. But he was gonna die. He was supposed to die.
Yeah, the captain.
But
yeah.
just because he quits, now all of a sudden he's not gonna die. So it kind of says, well, maybe there is a chance Miles can just save his dad.
Yeah,
well, I think they're
go ahead.
saving a lot of the plot because I was thinking back and I was reading back over the like Wikipedia thing. I don't think they ever mention specifically Gwen's father as well. Every time it's brought up, she's kind of like Miles says to her like, "Oh, that means your father's going to die," and she sort of doesn't reply. So I'm guessing they kind of implied her father would die, but in their like AI thing, it probably says he won't.
Yeah, they did
or something.
say, like, I think that was a thing of, like, implying when she's, like, kind of, like, doesn't say anything, it implies that she's just gonna let it happen. But I think that's why
Yeah.
when she comes back to her universe and she sees that her dad quits and that he's not gonna die, it seems surprising to her. And so I think the
Well, he
thing
quits
is,
right on that spot
well,
as
here's the
soon as he
question, right?
talks to her
I think
again.
it allows for like certain amounts of anomaly, possibly this might be how it worked, where like
Without crashing
maybe,
the entire
yeah,
system.
maybe Miles is like just enough anomaly that it's like okay, but it's not going to destroy the universe and he's not going to glitch. But as you get further and further off the path of the traditional Spider-Man,
It's
maybe you
like,
get more
Marty
and more,
Marty
yeah,
McFly
you
in Back
fuck
to
it
the
up more and
Future.
more, yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
and then you get
basically,
farther
yeah.
away from what you're supposed
That's
to
why
be,
he
which
was
can
glitching
destroy the
more
universe.
towards the end. Like,
Yeah, that's my theory of like why this is happening is that you can have it allows for certain things, and that's why I also think Miguel is overstating things. I think he probably went into a universe and like totally lived a different life than he was supposed to be, like totally removed everything and was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna do this," and that destroyed his whole universe because he changed the entire story. But like Miles has already had his uncle die.
'Cause
That
already-
did affect it.
is it supposed to be? Did Miguel, when he decided to have his family, did he just give up being Spider-Man?
Yeah,
or
that's what he said. He just lived as a normal human
as
being.
oh,
yeah.
no, okay.
So he like totally
That's
changed the
exactly
thing.
what I was gonna say. Yeah,
Mhm.
like I think the what is it, Beyond the Spider-Verse?
Yes.
The next one.
Yeah.
I think Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to reveal more of his backstory, and I think it's going to be different. And I think the thing is going to be like this whole AI canon event thing is something that he's just manufactured to try and keep order. But I don't think there's anything behind it because I think Miles is right when they go into the India universe.
Mhm.
It doesn't. In my opinion of that was that it doesn't disintegrate because he saved someone. It is the spot. Like he said, like that was the spot that did that. I think it was the spot. And I think Miguel was just like telling people, if you don't let your like father die, the whole world falls apart because he's just created this giant like army of spider people.
Is
I'm not
Miguel the
sure.
spot?
No, I think Miguel could be the villain because like it does have this
I
air
think maybe he's
of
trying to like bring his family. Like there's going to be something where he's like bringing these spider people together to do something, and he's keeping them in line by telling them, you know, these are the canon events you have to follow
for
and
him.
stuff like that.
yeah, that's possible because
Yeah.
we never have seen what happens like when directly when like anything goes off path, but we do see he does glitch. So unless there is
Yeah.
like Miguel is somehow like
Well, we don't
ultra
know
powerful.
really. I mean, the spot's the anomaly, but how did it? We don't see like how it really came into fruition, how the spot came about, right?
Well, Spot was made because of the explosion in what was it called? He kept going back to it in order to get more and more powerful.
Alchemax?
No, I know,
Alchemax,
but
yeah.
like you kind of just meet him first when he's
You know, he
at the
explained
convenience
his whole
store.
backstory.
Okay. Oh no, wait, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he explained his whole backstory. He said that like Miles basically like messed it up because he wasn't supposed like the spider came through and bit him, and he ended up blowing up the Alchemax while the scientist was in the thing.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but we
you're right.
haven't-
You're
yeah.
right. You're right. I
We
remember
haven't
now.
seen like what happens when, other than the one time that Miguel shows us, but that's kind of like the AI showing us. So maybe what he
That's
shows
true.
us isn't real. We haven't seen someone fully glitch. Like, if Miles just doesn't fix anything in glitches, does he die or does he just like glitch and then?
Well,
like,
he
change
seems to
art
be
style
in
or,
pain
like-
every time he glitches. That's the main thing. Is he
Yeah.
does seem. Also, here's the thing: is if it is just Miguel, and because I like the Loki idea of like, hey, like this is a like when all of a sudden at the end of Loki when they kill, he who is at the end of time,
Right.
everything
Kang?
goes to shit. Kang.
Yeah.
Everything goes to they call him he who lives at the end of time or something
Yeah.
like that. But everything goes to shit because ultimately, like there are probably certain things that make people the best possible version that they are, and I think that's better like metaphorically and philosophically than like hey and like keeping that in line to a certain degree is interesting where like if it's just Miguel being an asshole because he wants his family, I feel like that's just a
Well,
complete letdown.
I think it's Spider-Woman who even asked Miguel, "Are you sure? Do you know this for a fact?"
Yeah, they
that
do
this
bring
happens?
it up. Yeah.
Like, and he
Yeah.
just doesn't answer because he doesn't have.
Well,
an
he
answer.
said no. He says like, "Oh, do you really want
Well,
to
yeah,
test it?
like, but
Like, there's a
that's,
chance.
But that's the way him.
But do you
saying,
want
"I
to take
don't-"
any
there-
chance?
He doesn't. He
But he's
doesn't know
not.
this.
Oh,
is
the
for
problem
sure.
is he's not being illogical. If there is a chance,
Yeah,
and
what's
he
the
saw
percentages you
something
outweigh the
happen,
percentages?
even if
Yeah.
there's a 5% chance that an entire universe, which could have trillions of beings theoretically in this like whole thing, that is like you never take that chance. If there's a button and there's a whole other universe that has trillions of lives, and every time you hit that button, there's a 5% chance that the whole like all those people die. I don't think anybody would really hit that button. And
Yeah,
so ultimately, he's being logical with what he's saying. Like, hey, I want to keep this in line, and even if there's a small chance, we shouldn't. But it depends on what he saw and if he's lying about what he saw. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I got a feeling something will be like, he did get his family, but then they died anyway, or like, he just couldn't stop it, or something like that. Mate, like I feel like I was surprised the Miguel wasn't in this film that much, like until really the last like
Yeah, that's true.
because I thought he was like going to be the main villain, and then by the time I was like, oh my god, it's been like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We've barely seen him. I was like, oh, I guess Spot's kind of like the main villain, which I mean, Spot's a great villain in this, actually.
Yeah, he was great.
They do a good job of like prolonging the idea that you see Miguel as a villain. Because even at the beginning, he's like, I don't know if I want to take Ghost Spider with us, because he knows that Ghost Spider's close with Miles, and it's going to screw everything up. And then, sure enough, that's kind of what happens, and he was right.
Yep.
So it's everything is kind of seen as like, yeah, Miguel is like a tough, like can be seen as like an asshole to some, but he kind of might have a point that he has to keep things in order, because otherwise it gets off the rails and everything can be lost.
Yeah, and I can see him. That's the problem, is I can see both him lying and not. So then I come to the point of like, what would I prefer? I would prefer that Miles is actually wrong, and it like ends up that like, no, there are some events that you do have to live through. But also, like, one thing I think this movie hits on too is it kind of touches on this idea that like there's a feeling as a human being to a certain degree that like there are people out there that like are like you, but you just can't quite reach them. And then having that type of thing shown through Miles' inability to get to the friends that he had that he was so close to and literally relates so closely to, I think that was really interesting. And then the kind of seeing him interact with like the other Spider people, probably for me was the best part. When he interacts with Peter Parker, who has the baby thing is fucking adorable.
Jake Johnson's fantastic as Peter.
Yeah, he's a fucking great voice actor. Everybody's perfect.
Everybody's amazing, well casted.
Yeah, and it's like very heartwarming. And Miles, like, you can tell that like he's a rebellious young kid, and at the end of the day, he has something that he wants, and nobody's gonna be able to tell him otherwise. Here's the other thing too: is like, I don't understand necessarily how Miguel would trick every single person. Like all of these spider people, like every single one of them, nobody questioned it. That's a little weird.
And I mean, you saw like they were using the live action footage from like the Andrew Garfield
That
Spider-Man.
was cool. That was cool.
Yeah, that was. I love that.
Yeah. No, they weaved it all together well.
Guitar guy, the Hobie, is it?
Oh my god, yeah, the punk Spider Punk or whatever. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Hobie was questioning it massively.
Oh yeah,
he was the one that was questioning
it. I mean, he left
the
bracelet.
Yeah, he left the bracelet for Gwen at the end.
So yeah, he's actually with Miles.
Well, we would imagine. Yeah, we would
I mean,
imagine,
it gives it off as the impression that he does agree with Miles.
Yes, yeah.
Like Miguel doesn't know everything.
Well, he's also like a communist badass.
Yeah, he's against this fight the system.
It's pretty baller. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught, but he told him how to get out as well.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, use your palms or whatever." Yeah.
Yeah, and then he was like, there was one little scene where they like showed his palms, and he was like looking at Miles, like, yeah.
Yeah, and then like when he blows up the thing that like Miguel puts him in or whatever, and Obi's like, "Yeah, that's right." Yeah, and then he just waits till Miguel,
because he's pretty powerful. Like,
yeah, he seems more powerful than any of them actually. To be honest,
Yeah.
maybe that's what he's scared of. Maybe Miles is like the most powerful Spider-Man, and he didn't want.
It's
like
almost
competition,
like an Anakin type situation,
possibly, and he wanted to keep Miles down. Like he wanted to,
maybe
possibly that would be interesting. I could see that. Ooh, I like that.
Powers are like super OP though, because the thing they've explained so far is he can like use energy and then push it back.
Yeah, similar.
So it depends on how powerful something is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, however, though, like the ability for him, the fact that he outsmarted every single Spider-Man, like, and everything else.
Invisibility is pretty OP.
The invisibility is OP, but just generally speaking, it seems like he's super rebellious, and on top of that, he is pretty witty and pretty strong to a certain degree, and has a really heavy willpower.
Yeah, he's very determined.
And so so maybe this is a thing that he was worried, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to control.
It'd be kind of dope. It's not going to happen, but this Miles Morales turns into be Static Shock.
That'd be like
Thank you, Birch. Miles Morales' Static Shock.
that'd be
movie.
retarded.
I would lose my mind. I'm
But
like, all right.
I do need to see Static Shock on the
Yes,
big screen.
I love that cartoon.
Yeah.
At the end, I thought the ending was going to be just like I was laughing at it because I thought it was going to be like his mum's like, yeah, I don't know who Spider-Man is. I don't watch the news or anything. Like I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Then you
And
see
then
his
they're like,
uncle
no,
walk
no,
in.
no, no, no.
Oh
Uncle
yeah, it got
Aaron.
so dark so fast.
And then you see the same kind of like I love like they just kept everything just like in order because they had essentially Uncle Aaron was the mural that you could see on the wall
Yeah.
of the apartment
In the
complex,
same spot
and
that
then
the-
it changes of course to his dad, and it's just like it's crazy when you figure out like
Yeah,
oh wait
and this
he's
whole
not in the right
universe-
planet, what the hell is
Yeah, and
going
he didn't.
on?
Spider-Man never was here, and so the whole city is just overran by like
Could
villains.
you have gone another hour after watching this movie? Were you like, no, this can't end right now?
Yeah, I mean, I was I don't know if you saw the thing that I tagged you in, Rocky, with the audio recording and stuff.
I don't think. Well, it depends. What was it specifically?
So they haven't started recording Beyond yet, and it
Oh,
took
really?
4
Okay.
years of voice recording. They spent 4 years recording lines for Across,
Oh shit.
and they asked the directors this week whether the film's going to hit the release date, and they said they doubt that it's going to be finished in time.
Yeah, that
So
makes
I
Well,
sense.
the writer's
think
strike
we're
is
looking
gonna-
at a delay, even without the writer's strike. I think because I also saw the animation took 4 years, but they haven't even
They haven't
finished.
started. Yeah, that's crazy.
Haven't s- Yeah, I mean, it might. The biggest problem I would have now is if it actually is a couple years. Not to like completely praise everything. The only issue I didn't love the last like 5 minutes. I thought it should have ended a little bit beforehand. Like the last couple
like
scenes
almost
felt like one of those.
anticlimactic in a way, like how it ends.
It just felt like one of those where they were like they had to add a couple scenes because they were like, this is part one.
Okay.
Whereas sort of like Infinity War sort of ends like pretty much smack bang like on that, Thanos moment and then the snap. Whereas this one I thought the Prowler moment when he punched him, I thought, oh, that's the end. And then it kind of just keeps adding stuff and I was like, yeah. I mean, I didn't hate it.
What
I
happened
just
after
thought
the
it went
Prowler
a
moment?
little
That's kind of the last thing I remember, actually.
Like
Well, after he punches him, they show like they show Gwen talking
Okay,
to the
yeah,
family,
yeah.
and then she goes and like unites the Spider people, and then they show Evil Miles, which was a good reveal as well.
I think they could have saved it probably for the next one.
That would have been a
Yeah.
really good opener.
Yeah.
Showing,
It
like,
would have
Evil
been.
or
Miles at the
ended it
start of
as
the next
soon as he
film.
took off the mask and he showed it was Evil Miles and then
Yeah, that's what I think. Is like you could
Yeah,
end it there, and then that way there's like, and that way you don't know for sure that he's Prowler, etc.
It's gonna
You're just
suck
like,
if it
yeah.
doesn't come out for a minute because I mean,
I'm guessing at least 2 years.
when you do the to be continued, you're essentially saying this next movie's coming out within the next year.
Next
It's
time on
always been
Dragon
like
Ball
that.
Z.
Like the Matrix had the first one, and then they filmed the Revolutions, and I don't know the other Reloaded.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they filmed those, and they came out I think 6 months apart or a year apart. But Lord of the Rings, same thing.
I think it
if
was
they-
very quick. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have this next Miles Morales movie come out in like 2 years. Like
No.
it's just not gonna
Yeah.
work.
Like I've seen, and I don't agree at all with this, but I've seen sentiment that like, it's a bad film because it's like a part one.
Well, that's
But I
No,
do
that's
think
stupid,
if
yeah.
I do think if it's like a bigger gap as it seems like it's going to be, then that's why I have a little issue with the ending because it's like the last like 5 minutes is what I felt like was very much to be continued. Whereas
sure.
if it ended like 5 minutes earlier, it was more like right when he finds out that it's another universe and stuff. I was like, that's a good cliffhanger.
more of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And then it's
I
like-
agree with that. Should have ended on a little bit better cliffhanger.
Yeah. No, I
But
definitely think so.
I'm fine with it if the film comes out in March, but I think it's going to be like
Yeah,
way longer.
it's probably going to, and yeah, I think people are going to be really impatient with it because I haven't seen it. Because here's the thing: you could have number 2 and it could
Wait, it
ruin
was gonna
it.
come out in March. That's pretty. Like that's less than a year.
Well, I think it was what I don't
Yeah, it
remember
was-
the exact date. Yeah.
For some reason, they pushed it forward. Like it was, this one's June, and then the other one's March.
Oh,
so
that's
it's less.
weird.
Oh
it's like
yeah,
9
I
months
say
behind
next
me.
June. I think they should just take a full calendar year. To make
Well,
sure
I
everything's
don't
good.
think it's gonna. It's not even started apparently, so it's probably
Boy.
gonna be at least 2 years.
That's That's
I mean, it
longer
depends.
than
Like
that.
they could have recorded everything except Haley's lines.
It's possible.
My theory is Haley maybe is doing Arcane because she's in Arcane as well. So maybe she's going to do her lines soon. But
Okay, like
even
it's a
still,
scheduling thing.
it's still probably like delayed. The really big issue is have they ever, other than like COVID, has a film ever been delayed for production issues after being announced?
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a really big
No,
one.
I mean it haven't. Like for example, like Expendables had a whole release date in
Yeah,
2018.
there's
It's now
probably
getting a
shit
thing
like
now.
Ah,
that.
okay.
It's super common for things. It's called production hell. So you'll have a movie. It's like, hey, this is gonna happen, and this might. Sometimes they have a date, sometimes they don't. But yeah, there's plenty that have
But
like
this
an
movie
exact
made
date. And it's
so
like no.
much money as compared to like the
They
Expendables.
could
Yeah.
beef up the amount of people
Like, it's gonna
working
be
on
over
it,
$1
so that way,
billion easy for
yeah.
this
And so if
movie.
they beef up like the team behind it, then theoretically they might be able to cut down on the time. But then you're gonna worry about crunch.
But the good thing
and-
is it's Sony, so they're like, no, we actually care about our animation team and making
Yeah.
sure they do the best job
Yes.
possible.
It's true. We're gonna give them
So,
some time.
Unlike you, Disney, which is why we don't like associating our Spider-Man characters with you.
Okay, well,
Yeah, well, a lot of the
Mhm.
issue, just to finish off with,
Yeah,
and
go
then
ahead.
the reason that it's like not being done as much is this sort of animation is very like um, production-wise very Japanese. Like the fact they spent 4 years, I don't know if you guys saw this, but they spent 4 years on that sequence where the spider people chase him.
Jesus.
4 years of animation. It's one of those things where it's like you can't really hire a lot of people because it's not like Disney animation where you just hire people, teach them to use Maya, and then they animate it in 3D. So you actually need people with the skill and the artistry to do the like drawing that
That's
they're doing.
true. Yeah, it's
like
not basic
professionals in
animation.
certain art styles. you
Yeah,
really
you're
have
not
to
gonna
have.
get some kid
Yeah.
straight out of college going and doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless
It's
they're
like
like a
those,
prodigy.
Like a yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it's like those Ghibli films where it's like they just announce like, yeah, Miyazaki's making another Ghibli film. It'll probably come out in the next 5 years. It'll
Yeah.
just take him a couple of years to make it.
Well,
Like,
even
Yeah,
Attack
and
on
it's worth
Titan,
it, and it's
Attack
worth
on
it.
Titan, the second season took like 4 years.
Yeah,
for
no,
them
there's
to
a lot
make.
of
Yeah.
anime that does that. It'll or like Bleach. Like I think the first part of Bleach ended like 7 years ago or something, and then now they're doing the second season, like the second like spin-off thing that closes out
I mean,
the
I'd
original
rather
story.
the studio, take the time. Don't rush it. Don't make
No,
it a
yeah,
bad
you always want to do
experience.
that. That's why Japanese
Yeah.
anime usually is good too, because they do give their people
I'm
time.
I'm hoping because I really don't want issues to come up that if this stuff's true, they announce a new release date soon. I'd hate like to get to like November and then they announce it's delayed or something.
I wonder.
Because it's like they're
yeah.
gonna release a trailer really soon. If it's March, it's like we should be getting a trailer like very soon.
Yeah, no, I would imagine. I mean, I wonder how that like the Miles Morales movie. It feels like this is kind of Sony's way forward with Spider-Man and everything that surrounds it in that universe. And I wonder, depending on when this comes out, does that push the rest of the production of everything else that they want to do? I mean, they're doing the Spider-Woman movie, they're doing the Miles Morales movie now. You know, I
Yeah.
wonder if that gets all pushed back and they kind of just like, we have to make sure this is perfect before we even bother with that.
I also got to throw out a little thing. I so dislike that Sony's just so picky with their stuff. Like, I know it's not a big thing, but I did notice that in all the iterations, they specifically didn't show any footage of the MCU Spider-Man, and it's like
Yeah.
they're just being so weird with it. It's like I wish they would just settle the contracts and just join these universes, because I hate that like Venom and Kraven are coming out, but they're in the Sony Spider-Man universe, not the one with Tom Holland. It's like,
Well, also at the beginning they tied this Spider-Man. They're like, "Oh, did you see what the Doctor Strange and the Spider-Man
Yeah.
and that universe did?" And so like they're clearly like mentioning things, but I feel like that's because it is contractually obligated. They're like, "Hey, Marvel's like, hey, we're not gonna let you do this unless you do have something tying it to the MCU so we can combine it in the future." The only thing is, I'm
Yeah.
perfectly okay with Venom and anything associated with Venom never fucking touching any screen ever again, let alone Marvel. So you know what I mean?
Well, you saw the Mrs. Chen
Oh
cameo.
fuck me, man! I hate it.
I
Yeah,
thought
what was
She's
she?
fine,
Is she
but
from Venom?
Venom,
Yeah, she's
yeah.
from Venom.
Well, Venom
Yeah.
would come in and he like ate a guy in her.
She's
like,
the only one that
thing.
doesn't really care that
and she
he's
never
Venom.
reacts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I thought
Sorry. Go
Fox
ahead.
and Donald Glover looked really good. For some reason, I don't know if you guys were the same. The Andrew Garfield thing, it didn't like blend perfectly for me. I think it was just the red effect they were using on it to make him look staticky.
Yeah.
Like it looked a
Probably.
little odd. But I
It
guess
was
it's
a
probably because
little
I've
odd.
seen it in live action already.
Yeah, I think it only stood out for me because it is the only like live action part, so everything else is animated in a unique art style.
And then
So
you
when
have
you
the
see the
Tobey
live
Maguire
action, it
and the
kind of
fucking
pulls you
thing, it's
back
like-
into a live action movie for that brief moment.
Yeah,
that you
well,
see
there's
it.
also obviously Donald Glover. He,
Yeah.
you know, is
I
live
think,
action, right?
yeah, the way they did Donald, where he was like in a cage,
It
sort of like
worked,
surrounded
yeah.
by animation, worked. Whereas
Yeah, it
Andrew
did.
was sort of just like,
Just kind of
Yeah.
plastered in there. I understand what you mean. Yeah, it
Yeah,
looked
and
very
then
fake.
I love the fact they included the Spider-Man characters from the video games. I thought that was really
that was
dope.
cool. Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
I
the
did love
video
that. Yeah.
The T-Rex Spider-Man.
wait, but I fucked up by not watching the first one. Who was the dude in Miles's like the guy that he kept talking to? Was he in the first film? Like he kept coming in and he's like playing Spider-Man PS4.
oh
and he's like,
yeah.
"Hey, can
Oh,
you
that's
call the
his.
cops?"
No, that's his roommate in college.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, they show that he's in
Ah,
college and that he has
That's,
a
I
roommate.
don't remember the
And
dude
he
in,
says, like,
Tom
I'm not-
Holland's universe.
Yeah, and it's got the
that's
guy in the
kinda-
chair, they say.
Yeah, it's kinda
And
like
so
his
he's
version.
supposed to be like the guy in the chair, but he's like, no, I'm not going to be your guy in the chair. Although I had a theory that like there's a moment when Miles, because obviously the roommate knows that he's Spider-Man, and so there's this moment
Yeah.
when Miles is leaving and he's saying, hey, did you have that essay ready yet? And so I think, because obviously he's going out and doing Spider-Man shit all the time, and somehow he has all like A's and like a B in his classes, I theorized that, oh, okay, so he must be asking him that because the guy, his roommate, is doing his essays and shit
I
for
mean, he
him.
must care. No, but he must care about school because he wants to go to like the top college where.
Yeah, I was gonna
like,
say like
That's the
I was
weird part, though.
surprised
Where does
he
he get
only
time?
missed like 5 classes though.
Oh, did they say that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
he was
How
like,
the
I missed
fuck
a
do
bunch
you
of
only miss
classes.
5
Also, the
classes?
guy.
Like,
It's culture
5, and I was
straight
like,
from
what?
Incredibles.
Spider-Man only
Oh,
missed
yeah.
5? That's some bullshit.
Yeah, that's impossible.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then also so you know the Incredibles?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
you know how
guidance
there's that like
counselor.
there's that short lady with the glasses and she got the hair, the black hair. Yeah, the guidance counselor just completely gave those vibes. So that bitch
yeah.
from Incredibles. Yeah, and then she's like, "Oh, your son's lying to you," and I thought that was actually a really good moment where she's like, "Oh, you know your son's lying to you," and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she like the mom has
The
this moment to
saddest
think about it.
moment for me was when the dad was basically at his congratulations party. For
Oh
the
yeah, and he
cat-
thanks.
He's
his
like, I
kid.
did this all for you, Miles, and he's not even there. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
shit,
Well, also there's
that
that great
sucks.
moment where this dad talks to Spider-Man about Miles.
Yeah, no, at the beginning.
That was
the
great.
beginning of the movie,
There was
that
some
great.
really good moments
There's
between
so
the
many
family
great
there.
conversations.
Yeah,
between
absolutely.
The writing and
Oh,
dialogue is great.
fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I love that they will put in there like the whole Dominican thing, because there's this whole thing where like black people from like certain areas will be like, no, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. And you know what I mean? And they'll be like, no.
Yeah,
It's hilarious. Anyway.
Somehow, in the first film, I never clocked. For some reason, my image, like Miles, is like Black Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't clock that he was like, what's the fucking word? Latina?
Latino. Yeah, he's Latino.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
he's
I didn't
Hispanic.
clock
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the mom is Hispanic, and then the dad is black. So it kind of like
Yeah, they really
know.
focused
think
on it
she
in this
said
film,
she
and I
was
thought
Puerto
both
Rican.
parts were
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, she's Puerto Rican. And
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know. I agree. I didn't see it the first time, but this time they really did focus in more.
And there
on
was
it,
a
which I
lot
thought
of
was
jokes
interesting.
that were like real. I was like, oh wait, they actually said it. Thank God. There was moments where Miles said something that was just extremely based.
No, that's true. Yeah.
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 Yeah. All right. Well, we're a little deep on this one. We're about 38 minutes. So, does anyone have any closing remarks on the Spider-Man topic?
I mean, I'm excited. Sony's the only one that had the balls to do what they did with snapping Gwen Stacy's neck. So I'm glad
Based.
they're going ahead with the Miles Morales universe and actually pushing forward with it, because
Yeah.
I don't trust Disney for like
True.
anything right now.
I'd like to say I'm sorry, sir, for saying based about Gwen Stacy dying. I don't mean that. I just meant that they had the balls to do it. All right. Well,
Yeah, I hope this
mhm.
film is so financially successful, commercially successful
It's
that
got to reach $1 billion,
it
right?
becomes. I hope that it does that, and I hope that it pushes like a Western renaissance in animation. Like actually,
I feel like
Other-
Japanese people would love this movie too. It's kind of like that. If it's
yeah,
an
the
anime
first one did
style
really well.
and it's great story, like
Yeah, and it has a mixture
Yeah.
of like an anime style in there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Like I keep seeing people say like these films are the best animated films, and that's why I keep specifying Western, because I feel like a lot of anime films
Oh,
do
yeah.
sort of start using animation well.
Yeah.
But this is the first Western one that does it, so I hope we get more. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Studio
Please.
Ghibli obviously has like the top films when it
Yeah.
comes to animation for me too, as well. You know, My Neighbor
could you imagine
Totoro.
if DreamWorks and Illumination started making good animated films.
That would be
yeah.
fucking
Hey,
crazy.
well, DreamWorks is making another Shrek movie.
Pixar's got some good shit. Soul was fantastic.
Yeah.
Soul was
Soul's
fantastic.
yeah.
But anyway, I thank you guys for joining us during this discussion about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If you have anything you agree or disagree with us on, definitely let us know in the comments down below. You can check out any of our links. They will be down in the description. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. They'll pop up during the outro. And if there's anything else you want us to discuss, definitely let us know in the comments below. All right, guys. See you all in the next one.